Hey, Jill. Hey, Allison. Sorry I'm on a little bit late. Any topics? You could post anything you want on the side. I know I'm going to be a little bit delayed by the way that this usually goes, but I am trying to pay attention to the sidebar where you guys message. So if you put something up there, I'll bring it up. But if you don't know me, my name's Drew Cali. I am a medium. And tonight I just wanted to have like a no BS conversation or discussion on related topics having to do with anything psychic, intuitive, mediumistic, healers, Reiki, meditation, all the good stuff. And for me, hey, Jen, Lori, hey, Amy. You have to excuse me with the cough drops. My throat's just really dry. But a couple of things too. I know that I'm on my Drew Cali Spiritual Medium page, but if you go to Instagram too, I'm at Drew Cali Medium. I'm just getting started kind of on that. And also tonight, somebody's going to get a free reading who's part of my newsletter. If you want to be part of my newsletter, you can, I try not to send out letters too often, but it's definitely like a highlighted version of events, what's upcoming. You get discounts, giveaways, things like that. So you can find that at drewcali.com on the website, or you can just email info@drewcali and info@drewcali.com and say you want to sign up and I'll sign you up. That's about it. And I have a couple of events coming up. There's a past life regression coming up in Ramsey, New Jersey. And then I'm going to be up at the Inn at Saratoga on November 25th to do a group gallery. You can find all that on my website, drewcali.com/events. I'll be advertising it too. And you can always email me if you have questions and things like that. But sessions and all of that you can find pretty easily. Hey, Lori, let me just scroll down so I can keep up. I'm not going to go on and on about that. Hey, Colleen, Venus, and Justine, how are you? So I always like doing this because like the more and more I do this work, I end up having very similar questions with people that come in, and not your typical people, like, or not your, not other mediums or other psychics or healers or people that are into this work. And I always joke, like, if you knew me, 8 or 10 years ago, there's no way I'd be doing this. And I sure as heck wouldn't be doing a Facebook Live video on not these topics. But, that's part of the magic, I wouldn't have believed it if I didn't see it and experience it the way that I did. I just wouldn't. And I'm still skeptical of other people, I was just having a conversation where sometimes I feel like I need to cover certain questions before I start doing a reading or if I'm doing a group meditation, because I think part of doing this work is really to kind of demystify it. I don't think that, people understand, like, it's not a ghost standing next to me just talking to me all the time and I can get any answer I want. It's just not reality. Anybody that tells you that, get a very specific question and why can't they get the answer? Because if I could do that, I would do that 100% of the time. Like, if that's the way it was, why wouldn't I tell you that's how it is? It's not. It's becoming more in tune and aware of a conscious living energy that comes through my emotions, through my mind, through symbols. It's like sometimes playing charades underwater. So for some communications, like I can get, and I'm pretty good usually with names and things like that, but you can get some incredible information, but it doesn't come the way that you would think it is. I think that's an important aspect of what we do as mediums is not, I don't feel special. I don't feel like I have some sort of unique connection to God or to that I float. Like, I don't get answers that you probably don't get. Like, I don't get things for me. I get things for other people in a very certain environment where the conditions are right and the intentions are correct. I don't walk around doing readings. To me, that's just kind of, I don't know. I would always think, like, there was one person that I did that to in the very beginning, and it really, it didn't go well. And I was just like, why would I do that? Why would I put someone else in an uncomfortable position? Hey, Christy, Kathy, Cassandra, April, another Kathy. Hey, Teresa, and Jessica. I'm sorry if I'm behind on the comments. And again, please forgive me with the cough drop. So couple of things. You know, I do have a couple of events coming up, and I'm doing a lot of online stuff. And most of what I do right now is in Ramsey, New Jersey, and also in Saratoga or Malta. But I do a lot of stuff online. So it's so cool. We have this video program called Zoom. It's just like this, but it's interactive. And I have this huge screen, so your face is like as big as it is in person. So it's great, you know. So I don't get any information that's different in a reading on phone, video, or in person. I guess I used to not be sure. I wouldn't have known that before, and I get that question a lot. People will ask me, like, you know, can you get the same information? Someone just asked me before on a cell phone. Yeah, it's all the same. So if anyone has any questions, hey Samantha, Allison, if you guys have questions or you have topics, you can sure as heck ask on the side, and I'll try to bring it up. A couple of things. Some of you have heard me talk about this stuff a little bit before, so I just want to get through some of the basics. You know, all mediums are psychics, not all psychics are mediums. So I could be around, let's say Teresa, who I know pretty well. I could be around Teresa and pick up from her energy that somebody passed away, or, you know, something about that loss or that grief. So that's a real interesting aspect. I never thought of that before, you know. And can I pick it up telepathically? Sure, I guess, you know. So I was always skeptical in the beginning, like, am I picking this up from a real living person on the other side? So the beauty of mediumship is sometimes when someone says, no, I don't know what you're talking about, and then they leave, or I get an email later that says, oh my God, you know, you said this and I didn't know that, but my grandma verified this about my uncle or my dad or my mom or my grandma, you know. So sometimes the best information is stuff that you don't know at the time. I just did a group like 2 weeks ago in Jersey, and at the end I had a very specific name of somebody that passed. The name was Jeff. And I said that he was in his late 30s, early 40s max, and I kept feeling like it was cancer. So nobody could take it. It was the last kind of at the end of it, and I knew I was tired. I wasn't going to be able to hold the connection. So I kept saying, I'm not moving off this because I know somebody's going to come up to me after or email me after. And then I said, does anyone understand this in terms of everything else I said about this person? And there was like a 2-year leeway, or 2 years he was sick for, or he had passed 2 years ago. There was this big thing about the last 2 years. And it was nobody can understand it. And at the very end, this woman walked up to me and said, I know exactly what you're talking about. His name was Jeff. He died 2 years ago, but it was ALS. It wasn't cancer. It was like an illness. So I won't get something that specific. I don't know why. Like when I first started doing this, I thought that I'd be able to tell you very specifically exactly what happened. And sometimes I can get something specific, but you have to remember that they're utilizing my data bank and my references. So sometimes that's really freeing for them, and sometimes that's limiting. And sometimes it's amazing because what's coming through, the way what I say doesn't necessarily translate into what I think it should be, but it makes sense for the other person. Like the other day, I was doing a reading for somebody, and right in the middle of the table, there was a floating number 5. And I was like, what is with the number 5 with your dad? And they were like, oh my God, that's his lucky number. That's his favorite number. That's what we want, you know, kind of like it really was good evidence for them. And normally when I get a number, I feel like it's a date or an age or how they passed, or, you know, or a month or something like that. So I just find those kinds of things fascinating, the way that it comes. Like I'm almost stumped sometimes. And what I love about mediumship for me is I'll tell people, like, look, I'm not going to bullshit you. I'm not going to give you stuff that I don't know. I'm not going to give you this woo-woo fluffy rainbows, unicorns, and, you know, leprechauns are floating in the sky and, you know, all is well, because I wouldn't have bought that. And I'm not saying that that can't be real. You know, I mean, with what I've seen and experienced, to me, anything is possible. Honestly, anything is possible. But if it doesn't help somebody, I don't know that I have that much use for it. Like I used to try to figure out all these theories, and I would read like quantum mechanics, which is the type of stuff that you can understand for like 6 minutes. And then all of a sudden I'm like, wait, I turn the page and I'm like, what? I have to go back and try to understand it. Like time not being linear, you know, like Edgar Cayce, like all these great psychics and trance mediums. It's like, there is no time in the spirit. Well, our human mind can't understand that, or at least this one can't. So when some people ask me that, it sounds really good. And it does feel probably right. Like, or that time's not in alignment with the way that we look at it. But how do you explain that? You know, so I don't want to try to pretend that I know stuff people don't, and they just aren't evolved enough. You know, that's crazy to me. And that makes psychics and mediums look silly. I think that if you ask me, I will not regurgitate someone else's truth based on a book I read. If it's not real and I haven't experienced it, it's not real for me. I can't translate that to you, and I won't. Like people getting stuck crossing over, I just don't understand that. In the beginning, I guess I would have thought that might have been true, but I've never had that come to be real. And literally, when I would sit and try to meditate and ask my spirit guides or whatever you want to call it about that, I literally heard out loud, which I don't hear very often, we don't need your help. They don't need our help sending them to the light and things like that. So, I had to ask myself, like, what's the intelligence of spirit and what's my ego want? Like, I'm not that important. Mediumship to me, I want to give, like, one thing I love about meditation is I can give people a mediumistic experience without the medium. I love that. I just did a group meditation yesterday, and there was a certain portion of it that I took people to a certain spot, and unexpectedly, there's a person sitting next to you and a loved one's here to visit, and people have this emotional response because they're not thinking about it, trying to go into a meditation to meet someone. They went into the meditation trusting that I was going to lead them into a certain mind space. So, the magic can happen in unexpected ways. That's where the beauty is. So I'm going to go look on the right over here. And again, you can follow me at Drew Cali Spiritual Medium on Facebook, where you're on right now, or you can go to Drew Cali Medium on Instagram. I'm trying to get Instagram going, so if you could help me with that, I'd appreciate it. And you can find me at drewcali.com and look at sessions and all that stuff and events. So Cassandra, you have, how do you know if it is coming from the seekers, energy seekers, subconscious mind, your own intuition, or spirit? All those terms go together for me despite the different definitions. Would it not all be summed up as aspects of our subconscious? So no, I would say that that are just sparked by an external seeker. So what I would say to that is no, because if I'm sitting there reading for someone like this guy Jeff that came through the other night, it wasn't in her awareness, this man Jeff that passed, because it was her friend's husband. So a lot of people come in for a reading or a group and they're like thinking mom, dad, kids, brother, sister, in-law, like someone that just recently passed. They're not thinking of, my mom's best friend's son's kid, or something like that. Like sometimes it's just removed enough where it's not in the awareness, where people call it like psychic amnesia, so those seem to be the best hits for me. But yes, I mean, can I pick up something from someone else's energy? Absolutely, we all can. To me, that's a very real part of the process. The development in the beginning of understanding what's mine, what's yours, and what's spirit's is very, very important, because I do feel like when people learn in the wrong way or in a very undisciplined way where it's like kind of messy and chaotic, it's very difficult to undo, because we're building pathways through the spirit and through the mind into so meditation and Reiki and healing energy is very passive. It's slow, right? To me, the purest form of mediumship is healing or meditation, because you're sitting in that energy. You're not trying to interpret it with the mind. You're just allowing, right? So when you go into the psychic mind, and psychic literally means, it's the Greek meaning of or related to the soul. So it's not, like psychological. It's psychic, of the soul. I like the word intuition better because it doesn't say that I'm going to read your future necessarily. So what was I saying? So I just think it's really important to know, like with the meditation and the healing, it's a passive energy, right? When you sit in that meditative space, it's really beautiful. It's calming. It should be anyway. When I'm reading for someone, I feel like I'm pulled into their energy if it's psychic and intuitive. And I'm like, their energy around them is connecting with mine, and that soul to soul blend is a beautiful thing. And I talk quicker. I start getting these intuitive hits. So yeah, their energy is speaking to me. I'm speaking to them, but usually it's got to be based on the need, unless I'm working from my ego or the recipient has this huge desire and want, like, tell me what I want. Because then sometimes, that kind of influences where the reading goes or where the information comes through. But I have to interpret that with the filter of my mind. When I have to interpret that, it becomes active energy. Same thing with mediumship. A spirit steps into my energetic field and influences me through my mind and emotions and like these unusual references. Sometimes I hear where it's like not literally outside my ear, it's thoughts that aren't mine. And there's a very fine line between what's mine, what's yours, what's theirs. So I feel like the development and meditation can really separate those. And I was just talking to somebody today who's not, doesn't consider herself a medium or a psychic, but she sat and she was doing Reiki on somebody, and she saw an older woman who she felt, I think she felt it was like grandma, was wearing blah, blah, blah. And when she said it to the man after, he was like, yeah, that sounds like so-and-so. So she had a mediumistic experience. So to me, that's not like something that I'm picking up from that person's brain, because he wasn't sitting there thinking about his grandma, you know? So, but again, that can be, I understand where you're coming from with it, but I try to keep it really simple. And again, if it's not helping somebody, I don't know that there's, unless it's interesting to me, I don't try to incorporate it into what I do, who I am, or into my awareness. Because if I'm so brilliant that I know all this stuff about these different dimensions, and there's 7 levels of this, and this is what happens when we die, and this is exactly what happens, like really, that just puts me on a pedestal and makes me really necessary and important. And it's just not how my understanding of this is, you know? I think in the beginning, I thought that it would be like that, to be honest. I thought, I was like, wow, like, I knew that I was supposed to do this work when it happened for me. Like when this stuff started, when I started being aware, and when I say being aware, I would just be around people and I would start to know information. That's the only way I can describe it. I would just be aware. In my mind's eye, I'd start picturing this older man, and I knew that his skin was yellow, so he died of smoking, and his name was this, and and it was so bizarre. It wasn't the way that I thought it was. So, and I still develop, and if I'm not getting at least one thing wrong in a session, I feel like I'm not working hard enough for spirit, because they keep giving me different ways to get stuff, right? Because everybody wants to see, and I feel like if you see and you hear, you're not really feeling, and to feel is to know, you know, because a picture is, you know, can say 1,000 words, right? That's complicated. So, you know, pictures and hearing is great, but I have to be connected here and really feel that energy of the spirit, or of the person who's living, who's also spirit. So I hope that didn't go too far on that, but can they all be summed up together? Sure, you know. Hey, Allison. Hey, Shauna. Jessica. Amy. Okay, so thank you, Amy. Jessica. I'm sorry, I'm behind on these, so I'm going to scroll forward right now. So, Amy, how long does it take after someone passes for you to receive messages? That's a really good question. I actually did a group. I have a few memories of this, but like I didn't know. But I was doing a group for somebody, and I just kept saying, it's so weird. I keep seeing this purple motorcycle. And I know there's a younger male here who, and I can't remember how he died. Let's just say he had a heart attack. I don't remember. This was a couple of years ago. But I will never forget it, because the woman had just come from the wake. So to me, the communication can happen very quickly. I feel like what can be in the way, the obstacle, could be the living. So if somebody comes in, like I've had this happen, where somebody comes in and they just lost a husband or a child, even if it was like a couple of months ago or 6 months ago, but they just haven't dealt with it, or they just are where they are. They're just, or they come in with this huge expectation. If this is real, they're going to say, you know, blue turtle. You know, like it really depends on the recipient and the connection. Because remember, it's a 3-way, it's a triangulation between you, me, and the spirit world. And I always say I represent them first, you second, me third, but I need all 3 parts to be cooperative. And I think sometimes people think they're being cooperative, but they're not. I'll never forget, I was dealing with this one woman, and I'm like, you understand, there's 2 younger males that passed. One is right underneath you, which is like a son, and the other one is like, I couldn't figure it out. I think it was her nephew. And she kept saying, yeah, but that's not him. And I kept saying, what are you talking about? And I was really frustrated. I get really impatient, because they're working so hard to give me this information. I'm working so hard to give it to you, and you're working so hard to make it somebody that I'm not getting. And she was like, well, that's not my husband. And I'm like, you have to let me just go through with whoever comes through. And I have these conversations before, but people just don't hear me. You know, they can't. I'm not saying it's like they're trying to do this. It's just the way we're wired, you know. And doing this on a day in, day out basis, I see the things repeated no matter how many times I say it. So it's just the way we are by nature. And I get the need and the wants can feel the same. But again, to me, I would, if someone just asked me this, I get this question a lot. So thank you for asking that, Amy. I would say 3 months, 6 months, a year, like wait till you, Like, don't make the mediumship, the medium reading, your only way for closure and healing. Like, if you're not doing some sort of grievance therapy, or you're not, kind of working through it and really dealing with it, like, I think that's when people go to mediums, and mediums tell them all sorts of this nonsense. And good mediums don't. But let's say somebody like really can, that's when people get taken advantage of. Like, you shouldn't come to me every month as a medium or as a psychic. Like, that's crazy. I become your solution and your answer. That's not what this is for. That is not what this is for, in my opinion and my experience, and the experience of many before me that are brilliant at this. It should be something that gives you a glimpse of hope in honoring that there's life after life, that gives you the inspiration to know that your life in this physical realm has purpose. That's what it's really for. It's not so that you can stay with them and talk to them all day in your living room, especially with kids and husbands and things like that. I get that a lot, where people just like, they get stuck and they just, well, I'm just going to sit around and talk to my loved one who passed, and I get it. I do. And that's okay on occasion, or when you really need to. But, for me, join a group that meditates, like, get into something, like, I don't want to, I love this subject and I love talking about this stuff, but like, look, I lost my mom. I had a daughter that was 8 months stillborn. I have other people's suicide. I have friends that died by overdoses. I have people, I went to Iraq. I mean, there are people that have all sorts of tragedies in their life. And the thing is, my life, the last thing that anybody that passed away on the other side wants you to do is stop your life for them. That's the last thing they want you to do. And on top of that, the one thing that I always get that I love, I always get a feeling from them to say this. And I remember when someone first said it to me, was that their home you're visiting, get it out of your head that it's the other way around. Stop trying to get comfortable and make it about you, because it's not. It's just not. And I know that sounds really harsh, but like, when someone comes in and they're so crushed, they'll ask me things like, does my mom miss me? And like, I don't necessarily get that feeling from them, to be honest. If I'm just being honest with you, I get that they're where they're supposed to be and you're where you're supposed to be, and they just want for you to be okay. They're not looking for you to be upset and not move on. That's not what they want. And listen, I have tragedies like murders, name it, and I get really, really incredulous stories of the ways people pass, stabbings. I mean, just really, really difficult stuff. So I understand how we can get stuck on that. But mediumship, again, is not to bring them into your grief so that they can stay there and that you can continuously come back and talk to your, father every time it's his birthday, or, you know what I mean? Like, I understand that. But I just feel like, we have to be really authentic about it as mediums. So I didn't mean to go on and on, but I hope that answers your question. Hey, Michelle. Hey, Stacy. Terry. How you doing? How's Cali? Hey, Barb. So Kathy. Hey, Gina. So Jessica, do you ever have random spirits come to you when you're not doing a reading and you're like, who the heck are you? Great question. Absolutely not. I would say that if there's no intelligence behind a spirit coming to me and it's not going to help someone else out, it's probably not real. What I'm saying is, in the very beginning, yes, I had random stuff happen, and then I'd run into someone and that randomness would make sense. So in that respect, yes. But what I would say to that is, if this is a very intelligent consciousness, right? So like, when I've had people come in and they're like, I'm having this problem. Like, I teach a lot of mediumship and intuition and healing and things like that. And I still am developing too. Like, I'm always learning. So I'm open, I really am. But like, when someone tells me stuff like, oh, I'm driving and, this little child spirit jumped in my car, started talking to me and then went away. Really? No, I don't think so. Like, what would be the purpose of that? Because they could? I mean, to me, mediumship is beautiful when it's evidence-based, and then when the emotional evidence comes through and you could really feel the presence of that person in the room. I did this brother and sister the other day. Dad came through, and I won't say any specifics, but it was a pretty good connect. And I would say that I said that to them. I said, sometimes I get facts and figures, and that's kind of the way they were. But sometimes I get this emotional presence, and I'll tell them certain things the way they were. The personality comes through in a way that reminds them of them. And sometimes I'll even take on mannerisms of them. And that really brings them back into the room. And that's, what they needed. So that becomes a healing presence. In the beginning, before I had an outlet for this, like now I'm on, I'm off. In the beginning, I was like cutting cords and I was like closing my chakras and all this nonsense that didn't really work anyway. So I always say, if psychologically something helps you, do it. Like, don't let me stop you from doing something that's psychologically, like if you want to surround yourself from, white light and stuff like that, do it. I do that on occasion. It makes me feel better, but I don't feel like if I don't surround myself with white light, I'm unprotected and I'm going to have attachments and all that kind of stuff. I just can't live in fear, and I feel very protected and very guided, and you should also, unless you're using it for the wrong reasons, you should feel the same way. Again, in the beginning, randomness is trying to get your attention, but it has to be manifest into something that is reality-based and for use or of service to someone else. I do not have spirits that come hang out with me and give me great knowledge that other people don't have. When I sit in like a trance-like state or in a deep meditative state or I'm doing healing, do I feel like I get levels of understanding from other beings or spirits that are elevated? I guess, yes. And I've sat for that and worked on that blend. I do feel that, but it usually comes for me through like a writing or or it's for somebody, or it's for a greater purpose. Like I don't feel like I'm just privy to random spirits popping in. So I hope that helps. I don't want to keep going on that. Thank you, Terry. Hey, Melissa. Hey, Dawn. Susie Brass. Kathy. Hey, Jen. Carrie. I'm just looking for questions. So let me just scroll down. I'm way behind you guys. Hey, Bree. Cassandra. Samantha. I saw someone post a question about something about being certified. So has anyone ever gotten mad at you for not getting who they want you to get? Yeah, I have had that. I'll get back to the certification in a minute. And that, Lori, goes back to me. So Lori is asking, has anyone ever got mad at you for not getting who they want you to get? So what I say before I go into a session is I cannot guarantee who's going to come through, how long they stay, or the specific loved one you want to hear from is going to come through for you. And if I'm doing a group, you might not get read. I don't care if there's 3 people, 4 people, 5 people, 6 people. I'm not going person to person, because then it's me playing spirit DJ telling you what I'm going to get you. So it just doesn't work like that. Not for me. I know on occasion if I say, who do you want to hear from? And you give me a name or tell me who you, like in my mother, I can connect that way, but it's like not all the time. And anyone that tells you that they can connect with whomever they want to at any time, it's just not being honest with you. It does not work like that. It's just not true. If that was the truth, I wouldn't tell you it wasn't. And if it was just me that couldn't do that, I would tell you that I'm different, but I'm not. This is the way mediumship works. It's not a perfect science. So I do have people that get mad at me, but I don't really care anymore. I tell them this is what I'm going to do for you. And most of the time the need comes through. But if I get someone who's difficult and they're giving me an attitude, I'll stop the session and tell them to go away. I don't have time for that, and I don't have the patience for that. And that's just me. I want so badly to give you what you want that the people pleaser in me wants you to walk out and go, Drew is phenomenal. Drew is so awesome. But I can't get you wrapped up in that. I have to trust that what they're giving me is what I'm supposed to give to you. And there are occasions where people come in and I can't get the one person. I had 2 young women come in that were sisters recently. And right away, I felt like there was just a distance between me and them when we sat down. And to me, and it got real quiet. And I said to them, I'm not feeling much. I was feeling a few relatives, but they were like, well, it's kind of an aunt. It's kind of a grandma. Like they weren't really into those people. So I said, who do you specifically want to hear from? They gave me a name. And I could feel something. I think I got one thing about how he passed or something, and then there was nothing. I just said that. I said, look, you can get a refund or you can do a redo. Because in the first 5 to 7 minutes, if I can't connect, I'm okay with that. Because I've struggled through them, and we both walk away going, ugh. Like, I don't want to struggle through it and have someone walk away go, I don't know what just happened. And I don't want to like feel like I'm forcing this or that I'm doing it just for the money. It can't just be money motivated. It can't be. And I have to make a living doing this, so I have to be, I have to work really hard, but I have to be honest. For me, as soon as I lose that, I don't want nothing to effing do with this, because I see that more often than I'd like. Or people do groups and they don't mention that they know the person they're reading for. If I'm doing a group and someone comes through, I just did this the other night, and someone came through and I was like, I know that this person's here for you, MJ, but I just, so everyone knows, I know this person and I know who's coming through, and I moved on. On occasion, I'll continue with the link to just finish it because I just want to say one or two things, but I didn't feel that. It was almost just like a quick hello from heaven and moved on. So, anyway, that's just me. So onto the certification. Hey, Andrea. So I am just, I just don't think you could. So look, I know like spiritualism, there's CSNU, there's OSNU, there's all these different certifications, but there's also like big name certifications, and there's, I am, got the most evidence certification, and I got the best this certification, and I'm psychically validated by this person. Okay, if that helps you, like, it's like Reiki, I always say, like, teaching Reiki 1, 2, 3 in the Master Series, like being a Reiki Master because you were certified as a Reiki Master does not make you a healer. It doesn't mean that you're going to miraculously fix people. Actually, you could actually be dangerous. You could be one of those people that wants to be needed so badly that you're going to fix everybody, and you're going to tell them what's wrong with you, and they need to come to you all the time, and they're constantly telling you what's wrong with you. It's about empowerment. So if you feel empowered by a certification, by all means do it. And some certifications make you work very hard to develop. So in that respect, sure. But like, I remember when I first moved into one of my offices upstate in Saratoga, there was a woman who was like a chiropractor at the end of the hallway, and she wrote me this whole like, what are your certifications? Because I don't see them. And I was like, I don't have any. My certifications are my clients and the evidence that I give them and the referrals. And she was not happy with that. She never talked to me again. But I really don't care, because what am I going to say? Oh, I am so-and-so famous person certified. Do you know how many people I know that are certified that, frankly, I'm sorry, but just don't do that well? I'll be polite about it, or that maybe don't belong doing this full time. So certification can actually be the other way around. And again, I know in the beginning I wanted to do everything. For me, I went to Arthur Findlay College in England because Janet Nahovac at the Journey Within at the Spiritualist Church in New Jersey told me that that was a good place to go. I didn't really find a home at the Journey Within. I did find some really interesting teachers and people that I met, but most of it led back to England and the spiritualist evidence-based development. So I went over there, and it was just so weird. I went on American Week, and who was there? Janet Nahovac and Colin Bates were teaching. So I ended up kind of getting, that was my feet in the water. But I went week after week. I'd spend 50 to 70 hours a week doing mediumship. I probably did like 15 weeks in like 2.5 years, or something like that. I remember being on courses for colors, and the woman walked over to me, and they were Aura Soma, so they were like little perfume bottles. And because the course said medium in it, I took it. And this woman walked over like day 3 and was like, what are you doing here? Because I was like sitting in the way back, like, I'm not into this. Like, I just didn't know what to do, but I didn't want to be in the States getting told that I had to give someone, $4,000 to get certified and align my chakras before I'm ready to read people, and at the same time, even in my teachings, because you take a weekend course does not certify you to go out and read people. Like, to me, that's a God and spirit connection and an ability thing. Like, how mediumship and intuition and healing comes through you is between you and the spirit world. How you develop that and how you work on that and what arenas you put yourself in to stretch those boundaries, because that's really what it's about. We put the limits on it, is absolutely imperative to really, really good development. So in that respect, I think it can be really healthy. And I've thought about it too, like putting together something where I'm not going to teach anyone unless I give them some sort of certification, because I don't want people going out there and doing crap mediumship or intuition or psychism or healing for that matter and saying, oh, I learned from Drew Cali. Like, some people would be frankly embarrassed. This is something that I still feel like I'm constantly developing and learning, and I share with everyone that I can while I can, and I'm lucky that I have really good teachers and people around me that come from a place of humility, integrity, and honor. Because as soon as you come from look at how famous I am. I'm gonna kiss famous people's ass, and I'm gonna link up with people that have really big followings, because then maybe some of that'll rub off on me, and I'll kind of tune into, or I'll get these giant Facebook groups going, and I'm gonna kind of become, attached to that, and then I'm gonna advertise through that. Like, that's all good business sense, and the mediumship might still back that up, but like, I just can't do that. I'm not wired like that. I don't work well when I have to kiss someone else's butt. I just don't. And I've seen that, and I just can't respect that. I just can't do it. If the spirit world wants me to go further with this, I absolutely will work my ass off doing readings, not doing them all the time successfully, letting people get their money back if I can't connect. Like, I'll go through the BS so that I can do it the right way, as opposed to trying to take shortcuts. Because I feel like my mediumship gets stronger and stronger every time I do it. So I think that's really important for me. So for those of you that just joined, thank you so much. You can find me at Drew Cali Spiritual Medium, where you are now on Facebook. And you can join me on Instagram. I'm trying to get that going. I'd appreciate any help. It's Drew Cali Medium. And you can go to my website, drewcali.com, and look at events or sessions if you're interested. Okay. So I'm going to move down a little bit. I know I'm a little bit behind. I'm a lot behind. Hey, Dawn, what if it sounds like when they talk to you? Justine, hi, Drew, how old were you when you realized you had this gift? Funny, good question. So hey, Brandy, I am not one of those people that saw spirits when I was like 5 years old and, I've connected my entire life. When I hear that from people, I get it, but like, that just doesn't resonate with me. It's not my truth. I remember being really sensitive when I was a kid. And I mean, not just like anxious and sensitive. Like, I remember asking my mom weird questions. Like, where was I before I was born? And she would get annoyed with me. I remember this, like being really young. And I was like, I would tell her things. I'd be like, well, what if I wasn't born? Where would I be? Like, I just wanted to understand the greater picture. And I remember that very vividly. But when I was 22, I'm 42 now. When I was 22, I was dating this woman, Angela. We were in Hoboken. And we were at a bar after going to see like Broadway show or something. And I just remember like grabbing her hand and talking to her about her dad. And this warm feeling came over me. And I just started telling her this stuff about her dad. And she got upset, started crying and emotional. And she's like, how'd you do that? And I remember going, like, do what? Like, what do you mean? And I totally dismissed it. So when I was 34 or 35, after I had all these losses in my life, and this psychic was like, Drew, you're going to do this work and it's going to be big for you. I'm like, what? I'm like, you got the wrong guy, blah, blah, blah. So I ended up doing this meditation that night in my kitchen, and I had this crazy awakening where I saw there's no way that anyone can convince me that there isn't another world. I don't care what you say, there is. So you can go around believing that there's not and waste your time. I don't think it works against you. It just doesn't feel like life is that fulfilling. My life is definitely much more fulfilling knowing that this life has a purpose, and I don't know exactly what happens after, or that like, and I don't just do this because I'm going to go to some special level after. Like, that wouldn't work for me either, or that I'm going to ascend because I'm so, everything's just so wonderful all the time. Nonsense. My life is difficult, chaotic. I waited for Verizon today for the second time for 4 hours, and they did not show up for my business internet. Twice. I was so pissed off. That's life. So when people talk about like in this way where they talk, everything's so wonderful, you're going to be okay, just trust in spirit. Okay, that sounds really good, but why don't you walk the walk? Because your life is probably not like that. So it bothers me when people talk like that, and then I get them away from that and they drop the F-bomb every 2 minutes. That's you. Just be you, be who you are, and everything else is fine. Like, spirit world doesn't want you to, pretend to be somebody that you're not. So it happened to me in 2011. It came back in a way that, that I'm doing what I'm doing now. And I do remember somebody asked me after, like you just asked me, and thank you for the question. Did this ever, what age was this when you were aware of this? I forgot when I was 22 that happened until I had to really sit down and think about it. So for 15 years or 14, 13 years, that just never occurred to me. So again, when you're ready, I guess it comes, and I had to go through everything I had to go through. So I appreciate the question. So I'm going to move down. I'm like really far behind. Hey, Robert Daniel, I think I'm saying that right. Hey, Judy. Hey, Eugene Jackson. What's up, buddy? Dawn, is deja vu something like you're speaking about, like a feeling you have seen before? I would say yes. There's a lot of questions here, so I'm going to try to move down quickly. If you guys want, you can go back to the beginning after this. There were some really good questions. I hope you guys are enjoying this. I really do. If you could love it, I'd appreciate it. Deja vu, I don't know. It's funny because since I've been a medium or been aware that I'm a medium, I've never had deja vu. Isn't that weird? But before, it used to happen to me all the time. I'd be like sitting around with someone and be like, dude, that's so weird. I feel like we've done this before. What always resonated with me in that respect was deja vu to me means you're living a moment at a checkpoint in your life and you're on the path you're supposed to be on. Like, to me, that's what it means. And I remember being some places that I wasn't supposed to be, or that weren't great places when I had those deja vus with people, I just remember that. I mean, there's two that I can think of, and it wasn't good times in my life. So, even the bad times, I think we're supposed to go through that as well. Again, like, this isn't to gloss over everything and be like, well, there's another world, so we could do whatever we want. Everything's going to be just fine. We have work to do. And we also have to live a life that's happy, hopefully, or to the extent that we can. And that's a cloudy word anyway. Hey, Ash, I hope that helps. Hey, Cheryl. Hi from upstate New York. Yes, I love it up there. Hey, Drew, I was told I'm an empath. How can I develop this gift? Hey, Gene. So I would say I get that a lot. I think everybody's empathic. And just like everyone's psychic and everyone has this ability. So when I do mediumship and then I do meditations, which I love, because it's a passive healing kind of energy, not where reading is like active. I'm trying to interpret the flow of energy that's coming to me. So I always say, like, the purest form of mediumship is healing, because it's just you're allowing, the energy to flow through you. So empathic to me is very close to psychic. And maybe it's more on the emotional side. Like when you're saying, I think what you're saying is that you can literally be next to somebody and you can pick up what they're feeling. So I think that for some of us, that's just like kind of the sensitivity that we have. And I think that's a beautiful thing. And I do understand the next question that I get usually with that is, how do I protect myself if I'm in crowds, what do I do? And I feel like, look, we're like a clean sponge. And yeah, we can pick up some kind of debris, I guess, but we also have a reactivity level. So if we're going to feel like overwhelmed, then I feel like it gets the best of us. When we're really emotionally balanced and spiritually balanced, I feel like we just handle it better. Like when I'm really having things are as good as they can be, let's say, I don't feel the downside of things as much, empathically, psychically, intuitively, mediumistically, healing-wise, energetically, let's say. Because really what we're talking about is energy. Then you have the intuition, the mediumship, the empath, the healer, the psychism, all the stuff in between, the telepathy. So I think energy in general is a beautiful discussion, and it can be a little kooky too, because people can take that and make it mean whatever they want. So, look, again, I'm giving you my opinions and my experience based on examples that I've worked with people. Excuse me. Even when I teach this stuff, I cannot teach you how to see, how to feel, how to hear, how to know. I can't teach you to see a color, but if you close your eyes right now and take a couple of deep breaths, and you imagine your breath becoming white, and you focus your awareness on me, what's the first color that comes to you? And how did you get it? Did you see it, hear it, feel it, or just know it? Did you think it? Like, how did it come? A lot of people don't know, until they do something like that. Like, oh, I saw it. Did you see it in your imagination? Did you see it behind your eyes? Did you see it out there? Because there's objective and subjective. So there's all these complicated ways to look at something. But really, like, a lot of times I'll get a color. I just get a color from somebody. And sometimes I'll see a tinge of energy around them. So when it comes to being an empath, I think it's a beautiful thing, and it gets you looking in this direction. And the sensitives, I mean, there's a downside to being sensitive, but I don't believe like we shouldn't go like to concerts and things like that. Like, do I get overwhelmed by crowds? Yeah. Like if I have a choice to drive over the George Washington Bridge and go into the city, or I have a choice to go up to Saratoga, I'm going to Saratoga. Like, I just love the openness and the space. And I love the city, like for certain things. I do. Um, and it's funny, like when I'm working with a group, I have no problem having energy up here when I'm doing the readings and all this, and all people are there. So empathically and energetically, I feed off of that, right? I feed off of that group. And then when everyone starts to disappear, the energy for me, I don't have that cushion. So all of a sudden I start to feel real scrambled and like, oh my God, I need chocolate and pizza or something, you know, like I really feel the downside of it. So Samantha, just to get back to you real quick about the credentials and the experience, I agree. I think if you're going to do development, it's not about the credentials. Like if you ask most people that come in for a reading, they have no idea. Maybe they know one or two or three famous mediums, and if they're not on TV, they probably don't know. So if you're, to get a certification, like it may look good on a website to us and other mediums, but like people just like, you're so-and-so certified. Like, okay, you know what I mean? And again, I'm not saying that it can't be useful. Like when people get certified within the Spiritualist National Union, they're looked at in a certain way. They had a very rigorous development period. And I understand that system, but it also, in my opinion, can be very limiting. The most incredible mediumship came when people were learning through the experience of mediumship and developing through the readings and sitting in circle and meditation. It wasn't from someone else teaching you how to do it. Because if I'm learning from someone else, I'm actually getting shortcuts and I become a protege of them in some way, shape, or form. And in the very beginning, I had a couple tutors tell me, I asked them, would you mentor me? And they were like, no, you need to go learn from different tutors because that's the way it's going to work for you. And they were so right. It was the best thing I ever did. I mean, and there's some people that I feel like I can really take them through and I can really take them to a certain level. And then it's like, hey, I need you to go out there and do other stuff. I need you to go work and come back, or, like stuff like that. Or maybe they become a peer, like I don't have, I have enough ego that I can do this work and I believe in it and I put myself out there, but I don't have too much, hopefully, and I pray to not have too much where it gets too much in the way of that. And I find that, just watch this business of mediumship. And I hate to say this, but I'll just tell you because I'm honest, it's a backstabbing, cutthroat, backroom, ego-based business. I have people that I can't believe some of the stuff that I hear, that I've seen, and that has happened to me, probably for me, so that I tend to work by myself. And there's mediums that I respect and other friends and colleagues and peers, and some people maybe I want to work with on and off. But it's like any other thing, people everything's fine until, people start getting into each other's territories and stuff like that. And then it just gets complicated. Same thing with healing, it's just the way it is. So, hey, Nicole from Alberta, Canada, welcome. I love it. Lisa, hey, Jamie. Megan Flynn, hey, Terry, go see this meeting. When he brought my father through, I could see it. Thank you. It brought tears to my eyes. Thank you. Terry, that was a good one too. Plus Mavis was watching. Mavis Patilla was there. That was great. Your dad really came through clear. I don't remember all my readings, especially when I do groups, but I'll never forget your dad coming through when I stood up. It was like, bam, and I knew that I had to go right to you. So thank you for that. I really appreciate that. Hey, Robin. Jamie, so let me go. Authenticity is key, absolutely. So I'm really behind, so I'm going to go down here a little bit, okay? Hey, Karen, Lisa, Anita, Stacy, Janet, Cole, New Jersey here. Samantha, did you experience a lot of synchronicity, trouble? I did. Synchronicity, Samantha, with the numbers and stuff was really good for me in the beginning. And if you look up spiritual significance or spiritual meaning of numbers, it's really cool. Hey, Joan or Joanne, I'm not sure, from upstate. Lisa, I would love for you to meet my son. I feel like you could explain it better. He has great stories. Sure. You can tell him to come to one of the classes, or, you can reach out to us. Hey, Nicole, again. So let me just scroll down here a little bit. Any other questions? It came on us. You guys are having conversations. I don't want to break into that. Hey, Stacy. Howdy, how are you from Oklahoma? Hello. I know I'm far behind, guys. You were awesome when my dad came through with the F-bombs. That's one thing I'll always get, are the F-bombs, right? Yeah. So sometimes I always feel like the things that you wouldn't expect in a reading are the things that might be the best. So sometimes I get someone where like, do you understand that he cursed a lot? Because I'll feel like I need to be like, this is fucking crazy or something like that, you know? I don't know, I have so much fun doing this work, but it's also a lot of work. It's a lot of work. I mean, I put this work as one of my priorities, like, and that goes from the development to the way I come up with events. Like I'm doing online classes coming in January for the Psychic Medium in You Level 1, where it takes people through this intuitive process and then we work into the mediumistic. And I just did it with a group earlier, or the end of a couple months ago. And then I'm going to do like a level 2 so I can kind of bring the groups together. And there's I'm doing the butterfly series, which is like intuition. I spend a lot of time trying to share this with other people too, because I didn't have a lot of people around that were going to spend time with me. The people I wanted to hear from didn't have the time for me. There were wait lists for the courses. There were 2-year waits for readings. Like I just didn't know what to do, So I really want to be able to be there for people that are honestly trying to develop. I can't tell you how many people just want to have a conversation about their experiences. And that's all well and fine. And maybe I could validate some of that. But people tell me that stuff all the time. And it's like, I want to share so much with them, but I can't give my time so much that way, unfortunately. I used to, but now it's like, what it does is it just raises more questions, and so I recommend taking classes. And if it's not with me, go somewhere you trust. If you're unsure, go with your gut. Like if you feel someone's, and also watch people work, watch people work. And look, I've had bad days. If I do a group and it's not like, I always am really hard on myself. I'll walk away going, man, that was a 6. I had a couple of 8s, but that was like an overall 6. And, hopefully the majority of the time, my 8s and 9s are really, really powerful days. And hopefully on a bad day, it's still good enough and people don't really notice, but I do. Like I notice, and I can't control that. And I have to surrender to that. I used to do it where it was like 3 days before the full moon, 3 days after. I mean, I tried to size up everything. I had people talk about, for women, based on your menstrual cycle. And I just found that to not be true. I just found that it depends on a lot of conditions that are beyond my control. And part of it is the recipients in the crowd, and also the communicators. Like if you close your eyes and you imagine not being able to have a conversation or use words out loud, what would you put through to the medium to say to your person? That's I remember sitting there quiet with my eyes closed, imagining I was deceased as a spirit standing behind someone. I couldn't use my mouth. And I had to energetically project into that person a symbol, a vision, a movie, an actor. Like, what was I going to do? Show Vin Diesel's head from his nose up? Like it was like really different. I cracked myself up. But I get I think sometimes that's a good way to describe it to people, so that and sometimes as the connection grows and I establish who's there, I get a lot clearer with what I'm receiving. It's like pulling a string of consciousness, and the more yeses I get and the more I get into it, the flow starts to happen. It's like the power builds and the energy builds, and it becomes more vibrant, more vivid, clearer. I don't know how else to explain it. When it's like I'm struggling to get a yes and I get a maybe and I get a no and I get kind of, and then that's not the person I want to hear from, I usually just go, let's stop the reading, or can you take a deep breath, clear your mind, let me try to get into this. Would you understand this, that, this, and that? And if they say no and I can't really connect with them, because I have to connect with the living person also, and I do get people that come in. I had a woman tell me, if you were good, you would have been able to connect with my so-and-so, and then walked out. And that was after I told her I wasn't going to read for her. Because she was just controlling, told me to relax. Why don't you slow down? And, just like needed to control it. And I was like, stop telling me that. I'm like, when I work in this power and this energy, I have to be able to kind of connect and not have you telling me how I should do it, So, and that's also a personal thing. That's a personal boundary with me, and if I get someone that comes in that's real, and I worked with, I'll never forget, I had a detective from New York City sit across from me. Someone else booked him. All I knew was his first name. He sat across from me in a hotel room around a round table, said, just so you know, I'm a detective from New York, NYPD. I don't give an F about this, and I don't believe in this BS. But the person I trust said that you might be able to help me. It was my favorite reading to date, one of them. And I was like, I know you have a brother named so-and-so who died in 9/11. He was a firefighter. Yes. And I also know, boom, boom, boom. And it was crazy. And like, he was tall and he was short. And I was like, even though you're really tall and he's really short, he's telling me he played basketball and was really good, and you played football and you weren't good at basketball. I mean, just things like that. Like, you wouldn't think of that. And then his father came through. And I also picked up something, I won't say what it is, very personal about him. Wasn't a good thing. And he was freaked out. He was freaked out that I knew that he was that about that thing. And I got a really nice message not too long after that it really changed something for him. So, I can't control how it comes through. Why can I do that for somebody and then someone else comes in and, sometimes people are in pain and sometimes people are in pain and they just so badly want to connect. I get that. So I appreciate all the comments, and so Laura Beck Shull, do you do readings or just medium stuff? Readings are medium stuff. So to me, it's all one and the same. All mediums are psychic, not all psychics are mediums. So my readings also include intuitive guidance, but if you're looking for me to tell you your future, you should probably go somewhere else. What I do is empower people to use the tools and the lessons on where they're at, and I can tune into that presence of the here and now, like those soul lessons. I do these blended sessions, which I spend about 90 minutes with people, and it's basically a little bit of everything. I do mediumship, but the mediumship's not guaranteed. I do mediumship, I do a little bit of intuition. I'll ask them, how can I help you? And it's more about engaging. It could be intuitive counseling, it could be guidance, it could be intuitive development questions, it could be that they're developing as a psychic or a healer or a medium. Sometimes they're stuck. And for me, it's a breakthrough session. It's to take you from this level and push your spiritual development and your personal growth to that next level, whatever that is. It's to get rid of this mental block that you can't, or to get you away from some of the people that you're working with. Because sometimes someone works with somebody for a period of time of coaching or healing, and it's like they're constantly looking back, or they're constantly looking. And sometimes one of the abilities that I have, and I always say these are abilities, the gifts are I can share them with people. My gift in sharing is that I can cut right through the BS and be like, look, here's what I feel like needs to happen. Here's what I feel like needs to happen. You're not going to want to hear this, but here's where it's at. And people sometimes fight me on it, and it can feel heavy, but it can be really, really uplifting and empowering. And sometimes, I don't know, I just feel like I can cut through the nonsense and tell them, like, look, you don't need all these people telling you to do this. Really, the power is within you and you believing in you. Or you're doing this and you got to stop giving away your power. And then I really work with them in a healing sense. And you consider it Reiki if you want. To me, it's really like a spiritual, energetic, intuitive-based space that I hold for this person to recalibrate and realign. I'm not sending magical unicorn energy to them. Maybe some of it's coming through me because my intent is to open up that heart space and be of service to them and help them, but it's not Drew that's fixing, saving, or rescuing. It's really them. And 50% is really about the other person. If I told you you're going to be rich in 5 years, don't worry about it. But do I get that somebody's going to have a child, it's going to be a boy? Yes. And I've even named months, and I've gotten names, and they'll come through later on and tell me, oh my God, you got this or that. But if you're looking to ask me questions and me give you specific answers, I just don't have any use for that. I don't feel like it's that helpful. Am I going to get this job? Because people are generally looking for shortcuts. And Laura, this isn't really about you. I hope. It's not really about you. I'm just saying this in general. The reason I took the word psychic out of my name is because of that. Should I have this baby? Is my boyfriend cheating on me? Is he the right one? If you're asking me that, probably not. Or maybe. Like, it depends on who you are and how you deal with things. So I think that putting the responsibility on a psychic or a medium, can it be really useful to get guidance on one item? Sure. But like, I just don't believe in this. Like, I'm going to go through your Akashic records and tell you everything. I mean, what's the purpose of being here then if you know all this stuff? Even past lives. Past lives to me, like, I love Kathy Capilano does these past lives at my office. And I'm going to be doing one up in Vermont, actually, with Karen Benevento from Your True North. You could check that out. She's really, really great. She's up in Vermont, and we're going to be doing it in Burlington in February on the 2nd, where we're going to do mediumship and past life. She does past life regressions in like a Brian Weiss and kind of like a shamanic meditative state. So when you have that experience, I did one. When someone tells me, Drew, you were a pharaoh, you were a warrior, I'm like, yeah, okay, feels good, but like, it doesn't really stay with me and help me necessarily. The themes may, like this was your lesson. Okay, thank you. But when I went into it and was taken into this meditative state, and I literally saw myself as a German soldier in World War I, and because I was an American soldier recently, that was the last place. I remember walking through this field and I'm like, in my mind, I remember thinking, oh, I must be an American soldier back in the day. And all of a sudden I see the German uniforms around me and I'm like, and I saw the number 1914 and it was crazy. That would have been the last place that I would have chosen. So I knew that that was real, and then another one where I was a woman and I remember looking down at my feet and I was like, no. I was waiting for the Roman shoes and like, or the knight warrior or Native American. So those kinds of things stick with me. But when I go to somebody and they're going to tell me what's going to happen, I'm very skeptical. Can I get insight on some of this stuff? Yes. But is some of it drawing through what your wants and desires are? Yes. So I have to make sure that I'm really tuning into the soul or the conscious connection beyond what you want. Because it's easy empathically to get confused. Like, so let's say I did this with somebody, I'll never forget it. That's why I don't read for people I know or I care about, because, or that are like emotionally attached to me, because I want for them. So if I'm reading for you and you really want to get this job, I might pick that up from you as she's going to get this job, So I have to be very, very conscious and cautious of what I'm doing and where I'm going with it, and sometimes I don't filter what I get, but I feel like I built up enough stamina and boundaries and kind of understandings with my spirit team or that guidance that comes that like, don't give me any bad information. That's not going to help, because to me that doesn't help anybody. It's just silly. Like, your grandma's going to die. Like, why would I say that to somebody? I just feel like if it helps, give it to me. And if there's something that they can do about it, great. Or if there's something that they need to know, great. But if it's going to give them a shortcut and disempower you so that you can sit around and wait for these great things to happen, I just don't see the purpose in that. And you can ask anybody that's come to me for a reading. Like, sometimes I give really amazing psychic stuff. It amazes me. But I prefer going into it open. Let's see what happens. And how can I help you? Like, if you're going to sit there and wait for me to prove to you how psychic I am, go somewhere else. So I'll move down. Let's see. Colleen, I so appreciate the reading you were able to share with me. I really missed my dad and felt revived that. I was not expecting what I got. Do you ever get stuff you do not expect or don't want to share? So Colleen, interesting, because I just kind of shared on that. I do believe, Amy, I'm not going to do any readings right now. So Colleen, I would say that if somebody tends to come through for you guys, I'll give it to you. I always do. Okay. But I feel like they know when my spot is and when it's not. So Colleen, so do I get stuff that I don't expect? I do. I will get stuff that I don't expect. I will say that I don't get stuff that I don't want to share. I get stuff sometimes in a way that I have to phrase it, because I'm in the communication business. I have to phrase it in a way that is acceptable, because sometimes I receive it, it can be very exaggerated and I might be a little bit wrong on the interpretation. So in that way, I'm consciously working on molding the energy so that I can kind of, it goes into the way that I'm getting it and that it's useful and helpful and maybe in sync with the other things that I'm getting or where this is going. And sometimes out of left field, I'll just, bam, it's like, oh, by the way, your brother's going to be okay. I know he's in the hospital. Like, yeah, okay, sometimes I'll get something like that. But I don't normally, like, I won't get, and I will get stuff. I remember I got for somebody, I kept saying, did your dad pass of lung cancer or something like this? And I don't remember the specifics. And I remember them saying, no, he did, but my dad does have cancer. Or no, they didn't have cancer. And a couple of weeks or months later, they emailed me and were like, you predicted that my dad would have lung cancer, and he does. And like, that freaked me out. I was like, oh man, like, like that kind of stuff, like, it was amazing. If I had known, if they told me that this is for the living dad that's going to come, I probably wouldn't have said it, or I wouldn't have wanted it. I might have said it. But the way that it came, it helped her. because it wasn't as big of a surprise, and it validated the rest of the reading, so it was just interesting that it came that way. But that's really one example that I can think of. It doesn't happen that often. What are my thoughts on retrograde? Hey, Lindsay. I think it's very real. I mean, I think astrologically speaking, I think there's a lot of truth to that, but I also think there's a lot of man-made stuff. I mean, now there's only 12 signs. There used to be like, it's different. Time is measured differently. Like I'm a Sagittarius. I was born on 12/12. I have like 3 fire signs. My friend Kathy's really into this. There's very real stuff, but also a really good friend of mine and I went to an astrologist, and excuse me, and she predicted really interesting stuff up to a certain point, and then it just didn't go the other way. So it was like some of it was really good, and I did several different charts, like birth charts are really interesting. The ARE has some really Edgar Casey Foundation or whatever it is. It's ARE with dots after it, abbreviated. And they have some really incredible stuff you can get online, really extensive packets for stuff like that. But retrograde's very real. It doesn't stop me from doing readings, or I do not do anything based on the moon, the sun, or the stars. I do based on earthly necessity and spiritual feeling. So if I feel like an event, I ask to be guided when to do events, what events to do, and they still don't always work out, so that's my answer to that. I don't get so into it. At one point I started getting into it, but then I kind of fell away from it because there's so many people that do that. So I really wanted to be able to kind of focus. I needed to focus on my energy. What am I going to be able to give to people that's going to help, in addition to the way that it's coming through for me? And that's where the healing started. I would start seeing energy around people, literally, like heat on a highway, and my hands would pulsate like a heartbeat and get really hot. And I would just be like, can I just put my hands on you, on your shoulders, on your head? And then I would walk them into a guided meditation very briefly, and they would have an experience. So for me, it was very natural. And that was before I got Reiki certified. The Reiki came because I found a really great teacher and I needed a vehicle. So talking about certification, it was much easier to say I do Reiki than it is to explain to someone, I see energy and my hands get hot, while I'm doing a reading. People are like, what? And if you say spiritual healing, which I really wanted to do, and I really felt that that's the way it worked for me. I felt very guided when I'm doing it. Like I'll be told to move my hand. But when I said that to someone, I'll never forget, they were like, so do you touch me and I fall down? And I'm like, what? No. So then I was like, I got to get away from this. Let's see what else we got. Hey, Jill. Michael Christopher. Dude, we need to talk. Hey, Sue. I know I'm really far behind. Let me try to catch up. I do come up to Saratoga as often as possible, almost once a month. So I am doing readings. I am doing soul sessions. And you can always do them on video. So you can go to the website, drewcali.com/sessions, and see what's available in the calendars and whatnot. Can I talk about my experience with Reiki? Hi, Eileen. Yeah, Reiki is a great tool. I just find that everybody I bump into seems to be Reiki certified. So there's nothing wrong with that. But I find that there are some people that I'm around where I can feel this healing presence. And sometimes it's through the empath. Sometimes it's through the psychic, sometimes it's through the medium, sometimes it's all of them. But that healer quality generally means that that person's been through quite a bit, and they've done their work, or they're doing their work, or they're about to do their work. It's not for those people that, and I've seen this before, where recently actually, where a person in particular is really into their particular modality, right? Which isn't Reiki, it's something else. And everything is filtered through that. And if it's not through that lens, it's not real. And nothing's about this particular person. Everything is really about the other person. Well, the reason that this happened to my physical body is because of you. And, so I think you have to be very conscious of what you're doing with it intention wise. Like it's great to learn Reiki. There's nothing wrong with it. And you can do self-treatment, which I think is brilliant if you add it into yoga or meditation. But I don't know. I think people try to fancify it, like it, if that's even a word. I don't know if that's a word. But I do feel like, I don't know, like I'm just very skeptical like of who puts their hands on me for certain energy work. And doing Reiki shares and teaching and sharing, I love it. Like when I'm working in a room with people on tables, like I have 4 tables that I could put in my space and do Reiki shares and that kind of thing, like do like a couple of hours of it and then take people into deep meditative states. It's really, really interesting. I mean, I could literally see the energy coming through the person, where the energy is the strongest on the recipient. I find, but like my perception of how I see it is not like typical where you like someone will say, well, this is chakra means this and this color means this. Like when I teach intuition, but I tell people to meditate on them and tell me what you feel they mean. Because if you look up red, it means this. And there's some basic standard things. Red could mean love, angry, passion, power, resentment, sexiness, like red dress, vibrant, could mean stop, you know. So it could mean a lot of different things. But if you really sit with those colors, I feel like it can really help you. So to me, when I started seeing energy, I don't see it all the time. It's not like I walk around seeing people in blue and yellow bubbles. You know, I just see it when there's a need and I can usefully talk about it. Or for me to help understand something about somebody, like I'll know that there's yellow around this person, so they'll really like to use their mind. If I see a lot of pink or violet up by the face and the eyes, I know that this person is clairvoyant or they're mediumistic. And then I'll see pink behind somebody and I know that they have this really good connection with spirit or they're seeking. So it doesn't mean literal translations that you can Google. So I think that's one of those things that I always say, like, if I could teach a course on intuitive healing or like Reiki with intuition and how to understand how you perceive energy, that would be like really, really cool to do. So maybe I'll have to look into that. So if enough of you are interested in something, like I'm doing a psychic medium in you course, January 15th, every Tuesday from 6:30 to 9 online. And you do practice readings. We go through the intuitive stuff, the chakras, the colors, some oracle cards, some, we're going to use pendulums. We're going to do archetypes, and we're going to feel, see, and hear, do experiments with each other. You're going to get practice readings on the side. If you're interested in something like that, please email me. I do classes based on the need and based on attendance, but also I want them to be powerful for people that they can actually incorporate them into their life. Like you can only teach Reiki so much. You can teach in-depth, informational, intuitive, thing, Reiki and healing. But I feel like if you really want to expand your awareness, get into the intuition. Because to me, that's really what everything opened up for me, because spirits were communicating with me. And then I was saying what I thought I was getting, feeling, hearing, or seeing, and it would make sense to the other person. If I was sitting next to someone, I was just aware that they had a bad day, I don't know that I would even be aware that I was aware of it. So it had to come in that way. And then when the healing came, I got to tell you, like, I was very comfortable with it. I knew what was happening, and I knew it didn't cure or fix anybody. I knew that it was an ongoing process, that I would work with somebody on a weekly basis, but it wasn't me reading them or talking to them while they're on the table. They're laying on a comfortable bedding where I can actually see energy like a waterfall going from their head to their toe. And it's like I would see pools of static, and I knew my hand needed to go there. And I would feel a pull on my hand. And when I would close my eyes, I would get almost drawn into this meditative state for a couple minutes. And then I would open my eyes and I would know that my hands need to go somewhere else. So I don't know how to explain it. So, the beauty about learning Reiki or teaching Reiki is that it gives it a vehicle and a language, so we can sit around and do experiments with symbols and colors and feel this energy. Put your hands above someone's head and let's talk about something angry. How does it feel now? Let's talk about something funny. How does the energy feel? And where do you feel the energy on the person? Do you feel the energy? What are the adjectives? Did you see it, hear it, understand it? like all those different things. Like I love doing that kind of environment. So Reiki is a beautiful vehicle, but it's also can be limiting for some people because they think like they have to be a this, that, and this and that in order to really expand their horizons. That's just not true. Allison, Dockham, the only way I can describe what you do for people is that it's literally like someone handed you a gift that no one could give you. Thank you for doing what you were meant to do. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Stacy, my little granddaughter will be here in January. Thanks. Jill, talk about the use of Reiki. We'll always remember feeling the mild shock waves. Oh, interesting. Not painful, not a shock, but physical energy when you weren't touching me at all. Interesting. So the more I started doing this work with especially like hands-on healing and Reiki and sometimes hands-off, which I used to be like, that's silly. Like seeing people do these symbols and like be around someone's, I used to be like, I'm never doing that. Don't ever put me up there where I'm going to do like going to move your aura. Like to me, it's just weird. So, because you can sit, I learned in England, like you could sit for trance energy healing without touching somebody. You could sit in a meditative state and surround them with that energy through you. So anyway, when I'm working with some people, sometimes they have this release where their hand will move and it'll go down and it'll come up, or their legs will spasm out. They don't know it all the time that it's happening, because afterwards they'll go, yeah, I felt that one finger moving, like your whole body was like, but it's not uncomfortable. It's like physical releases because the auric field is shifting and the emotions are adjusting. So to me, the way that I perceive it away from the body is more emotional. It's more of like a static kind of feeling. And when I get into that body, touching on the shoulders, the hips, the chest, the head, I feel like it's the mental, emotional, and also the physical. So on a very weird occasion it happens where my hand will be over somebody's hand, and when I move my hand, their hand follows it. I mean, literally follows my hand, like there's rubber bands attached to my hand. And it does it with their legs too, where their legs will rise up, or I'll walk away and I'll have my hands like this around the table. Like I feel like there's this sphere or funnel of energy that's like doing whatever it's doing to help them, and my hands are just holding this space in a way, and I can really feel it. I don't know exactly what's happening, I just know it feels really good. And I'll see people literally, their face will have this weird expression, their lip will come up, and they're just so in this meditative beyond mind space that they're having an experience. It's like a journey, and their arm will come up, or their hand will kind of flex, or they'll kind of, their shoulder will shrug. So to me, that's really powerful because it's releases. So, and some people are aware of it too. Like they'll be aware of it, but it doesn't take them out of it. They're just like, holy cow, that just happened. So it's so unexpected. It's like an electrical shock in a nervous system that releases some sort of emotional memory, cellular DNA, however you want to look at it. There's a lot of different ways. So thank you for the questions. Was recommended by you for Kathy C. It was great seeing you. Hey, Maureen, thank you. Hey, Josephine. I was going to come to Vermont. You should. Vermont's going to be a lot of fun. I'm doing also the Inn at Saratoga, November 25th. I think it's a Sunday, right on Broadway in Saratoga. I'm doing a group reading, which is a lot of fun, and it's a cool place. It's more, an older place of Saratoga, the Inn at Saratoga. I'm also going to be up in December and in January and in February and in March. I might be doing a retreat. So if anyone's interested, I might do like a big group thing. And then I might do like some healing energy and meditation and teaching intuition for a day or maybe a day and a half. If you're interested in that, email me, because I really want the people to want it. And I would be happy to do that. I'd be happy to do that right in Malta off Exit 12 at the Hyatt. I have some rooms reserved and things like that for the last weekend in March. So I'm thinking about it. But you can go to my website, drewcali.com, and you can also like my Drew Cali Spiritual Medium page if you haven't, or Drew Cali Medium at Instagram. I think also when I do this work, like there's nowhere else I want to be. Like people talk about like, how do you know that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing? Before I did this work, I was in business and I made an insane amount of money. And it wasn't like I was retired, filthy millionaire, but I was making a lot of money, much more money than I probably thought I would have by that time. And, at the time, if you asked me, I would have told you everything was great. I was living the life of my dreams. Everything was good. But really on the inside, I wasn't feeling that. I didn't know it until I had this spiritual awareness happen and this awakening. And when that happened, I don't know how to explain it. It was like a homecoming. Like I just had to look at my life from here to here. And I knew that I was like somewhere around here, maybe a little bit further, depending on how you look at it. And I just didn't want to waste any more time doing what I wasn't supposed to be doing, regardless of how much of a financial hit it was going to take. But I also had the money from that business for years for me to travel around the world, to Scotland to study trance, to England to study mediumship, spiritual healing, intuition, psychism, and also to Norway to work with somebody. She owns a healing center out there. She does incredible work. To Ireland to travel around with friends in a spiritual way. So like all these things. And I kept going back to the UK. And to me, there's no perfect way to do this. And there's no real wrong way to do it, as long as you're not doing anybody harm. But I just feel like there's a reason that, like, if you don't know what PTA is like Parent Teacher Association. So like sometime in the last year, I actually did a benefit and I did a free group for a charity through the PTA in Westwood, New Jersey. When I grew up, there's no way that a medium was coming to a parent-teacher conference kind of thing that they have through the school, at the school. I went to the school and did so mediumship and intuition and all these things, because of TV mediumship, beginning really with John Edward, James Van Praagh, George Anderson, and to now it being more of like a reality-based show about the person, not about the mediumship. Like, that's all fine and good. And I just feel like, my responsibility is to realize that it's not about me, and it's not about me being special. Because around here in northern New Jersey and in New York City area, you could throw a rock and hit a medium. I used to say that up in Saratoga, you could throw a rock and hit a Reiki person. So, for me, what are they coming to see? They're coming to see you, or the way that you deliver it, or your authenticity and your honor. They're not coming to you just because you do this or that. So, so for me, it's always an honor and a privilege to be in this space with you guys. I really appreciate it. I'm going to look for one or two more questions. If anyone has a real doozy, put it up there. Wow, there's a lot of you. Hey, Claire, Terry, Tina, Cassandra, Jill. How long do you meditate every day? How many times a day? I love your CD, by the way. Thank you. Yeah, I do have a meditation CD. I always forget about that. I hate promoting myself, but I have to. I was lucky enough to work with somebody in the UK who, in like a few takes, we did a meditation CD. It was really cool. It's called The Pearl Within. You could get it off my website, or you can get it on iTunes. You could download it. It's relatively inexpensive. But I meditate once a day. Sometimes I'll sit twice a day, and I just sit. But really, prayer has become a really big thing for me. I'm Irish and Italian, so obviously my background is quite Catholic, or my lens is Catholic, but I'm really not religious, never have been. To me, that kind of limited, and to me, that inner dialogue with the universe, with spirit, my guides, the guardians, whatever you want to call them, is very personal. And I actually learned that outside of religion. I actually learned the word spirituality. I look at it completely different. It has no attachment to religion whatsoever with me. It's actually through spirituality we experience that connection. And that connection can evolve with me, through me, and beyond me, where I have to catch up with it sometimes. And I think that that's healthy. So for me, for about 5 years, 5 years solid, I literally meditated for 45 to 60 minutes every single morning. It was very rare that I didn't. I was almost afraid not to. And it took me probably a year or two to get to that point. Like, I would meditate for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes. And then eventually, like I always say, if you're learning how to meditate, the best way to learn how to meditate is just to meditate every day for 10 minutes until that gets too quick. Put chimes on your phone, sit in the quiet. It's not about not thinking. It's about allowing your mind allowing yourself to go beyond the mind, where you don't participate in your thoughts, and your thoughts become like this kind of distant thing, or you're not even aware of them. It's not about stopping thinking, because when people say that to me, I'm like, you don't want to stop thinking. I think that's important. So I would sit for 10 or 15 minutes every day, and then all of a sudden that was too quick. So I'd sit twice, or I'd sit for 20 minutes. And then I started doing like 30 minutes. Then I was experimenting, and I sat at the same time, in the same chair, in the same way every day. And if you meditate long enough, guided meditations won't do it for you. For me, I can't anticipate or listen to someone else's voice on a regular basis. On occasion I can, but for the most part, and that's only when I want to really experiment and experience. In the beginning, yes, it took my mind out of it. But now if you're anyone that's meditated for a long period of time, you really crave the silence or some music in the background that's soothing, just to kind of get the mind relaxed. But that's really what I do. I would say the most important thing that I ever do and did for my enhancing my abilities and my awareness was meditation, by far. Not yoga, not eating vegetarian, not opening my third eye with my fingers, not Kundalini exercises. None of that worked for me. And I've heard many people have different things work for them, but what worked for me and what seems to work for people that are developing is what works for you. What's simple. And simple wasn't sitting. I used to think meditation was sitting like this saying, oh, like it's not like that. You just sit in that quiet presence. If you can't sit for 10 minutes by yourself in the quiet, you're probably very uncomfortable in your own skin, and you're not taking certain actions in accordance with what your soul wants you to do. So sitting with that soul in that blend probably is the most important thing. So I love that question, Leanne. Thank you. So listen, I'm going to do one more. I'd love to see you back up here in New Hampshire. Hey, Ann, I'm going to be in Vermont doing a mediumship group, maybe some readings, and some intuitive workshops along with Karen Benevento and Your True North. She's going to be doing past life regressions. So we're going to do group stuff. It's going to be really fun. So I really appreciate that. So look, I'm going to wrap this up. And it's funny, like, so even when I work with energy, like when I'm doing a group, it's like this, and then I have no time frame, no reference. And all of a sudden I start becoming aware of time. It's usually about the 90 minutes. So I honor that. Like I can sense that, okay, this is coming to a close. I don't want it to be to a close. I want to keep going. I want to go back to the feeling it was 15 minutes ago when I was really in a subject, but I really feel like I have to honor that. So again, it's always an honor and a privilege for me to be on here. Please email me. If I can help you, I will, but please know it's hard for me to get long responses. And if you have a really long email, I might not be able to get back to you because it's just too complicated. I do a lot of classes. I hold a lot of meditations. Also, Monday nights in Ramsey, New Jersey at 7:15 to 8:15, beginning in November, $10. You can come and meditate every week. We're only going to be there for an hour. You have to pre-register. You have to email me at info@drewcali.com and say I'm interested so that you can pre-register and get you on that list. It's going to be a weekly thing, and it can be very helpful. And people are going to share. And it's also for people that are grieving or have lost people, or just want a spiritual outlet to develop, even with people that are like-minded. And it's a very kind of cool atmosphere. I want it to be a little bit of a home for people. So I just want to plug that. And I do Sunday morning meditations once a month. I'm doing spirit messages. I'm also going to do a group reading at my office for like 20 to 25 people. Come sometime in December. If you're interested in that, email me. I haven't put it up yet. And the Psychic Medium in You, level 1 online, begins in January. If you're interested, please let me know. It's Tuesday nights, 6:30 to 9 through Zoom. It's a program that allows you really good access and really clear connections. And it allows me to really work with you. And you also get free one-on-one 30-minute coaching and consulting for your development. So love you guys. I love this work. And my life isn't perfect, but I love that I get to open up and talk about this really not so usual space that everybody has, and that everybody is connected to and through, and from. So, to me, it's just really an honor. I really appreciate your comments, your questions. If I could answer all of them, I would, but I have to wake up and do a bunch of sessions tomorrow morning, and then teach a class tomorrow night. So again, love you guys. Thank you so much. You guys have a peaceful night. Drop me a note. Thank you. Night.